I've been asked a few questions and I just wanted to go through some of the questions and give the answers that I can give and also ask more questions concerning the questions. I'm also going to decide whether the question has been asked in the right way. Does it make um, assumptions which can be questioned? Okay. So we were having a discussion on religion, and I know that religion is a topic that a lot of people shy away from, but without disrespecting anyone, okay, I'm going to look at these questions and ask you, the viewers, to sort of answer them if I cannot answer them myself. So the first question was, why are human beings the only creation with a soul and a spirit? Okay, so my answer to that is, first of all, I need to understand what a soul is and what a spirit is. If I don't know what those are, then I cannot answer the question, why are human beings the only creation? First of all, the question is asking why is the only creation. So it's assuming that human beings are a creation together with other things, plants and animals, and maybe even non-living things like rocks and all the other stuff that we find in the universe, which is not living. So why are human beings the only creation with a soul and a spirit has made the assumption that we have been created, first of all, and that a soul and a spirit is something which we have, but I don't know what a soul is and I don't know what a spirit is. So if you can explain to me what the soul is and what the spirit is, then maybe we can try to find out if there is a soul in other plants and animals, and then we can maybe talk about why we think only human beings have a soul and a spirit. So a spirit, number two, a spirit cannot be destroyed even by death. Where does the human spirit go after death? So again, it ties in with number one, because in number one, we don't know what the soul is or what the spirit is. So we cannot talk about a spirit that not being destroyed even by death, because first of all, we need to understand what the spirit is. If we understand what the spirit is, then we can talk about what happens to it after death. Okay? How do miracles happen is question three. Well, in terms of miracles, okay, it depends on what you understand by miracles. Some of the scientific developments or the present day or in the last 100 years would be deemed as miracles by people who have lived maybe 400 or 500 years ago. If you were to bring someone to life today, they would probably think that they are experiencing miracles. Okay? For me, a miracle is perhaps photosynthesis as a process is itself. To me, it's miraculous that all these things are happening. But if you're talking about miracles as shown by prophets, modern day prophets, etc., then I'm not sure if those are miracles or tricks. So if you ask me how do miracles happen, I would have to say, first, tell me what a miracle is. And if we can identify one miracle, and if we can prove beyond reasonable doubt that it's not some trick which has been carried out, then we can begin to talk about how they do happen. Okay? Is the universe finite or infinite? Well, what we know is that the universe is expanding, and what we know is that we have an observable universe which is based on our own observations, okay, or as far as our instruments can see. But we know that if it's expanding and it started from a certain point, then it must be expanding. And the question is, what is it expanding into? And the answer to that is that the universe is expanding into itself. So the universe, by scientific definition, is all there is. Okay, so is it finite? It's finite in terms of the observable universe, but is it infinite? It's finite and infinite at the same time. It's infinite in terms of the fact that it's expanding into something. It's expanding into self. It is continuing to expand. So we don't know how far it's going to expand. So in that case, we can say that it's infinite. Who or what determines who dies? Well, first of all, we don't know if death is determined. We don't know if something or someone determines it. So that's a difficult question to answer. Can I just say at this point that most of the questions here are deep philosophical questions which have been asked for millennia, for thousands of years. And for someone to then claim that they have all the answers to these questions, I think would not be accurate. But I think what's important is that we begin to ask these questions. I know they've been asked before. There are some answers which have been given. Some have not been shown to be satisfactory, and people are still asking these questions. Okay, so these are deep philosophical questions, and what science has done is to try and answer some of those questions using the scientific method. But the scientific method has not been sufficient to answer all of the philosophical questions which have been asked. So some of the questions have been answered, some are yet to be answered. Whether science will answer them or not is not the question, but science continues to ask, continues to experiment. Okay. So who or what determines who dies? I'm not sure who or what determines who dies, but what I know is that death is a process which starts from the day that you're born. Okay, because the cells in your body will divide and divide, but there is the DNA which contains all the information. Okay, will eventually ask the cells to stop dividing. So that's when you stop growing taller. But at the same time, some chemical reactions will start taking place which are not helpful to you. That's why we develop conditions such as cancer. Okay, so who or what determines who dies? I have no clue. Is there someone rolling dice? Well, I don't think there's anyone rolling dice, but some people believe that there's someone rolling dice, but there is no proof besides their faith. How do you exist? Okay, do you even exist? Can you prove that you do? Who inserted the soul you have in your body? Well, if we can agree on what the soul is, then maybe we can start talking about how it got there. Whether it was put there by someone, we don't know. Can you prove that you exist? Well, what I can tell is that I'm a conscious being who is responding or who is responding to your questions. So there's a feedback loop which is taking place. So in terms of the existence, if you're talking to me or asking me these questions, then surely you do realize that I exist. Okay. So the proof to existence is another deep philosophical question, because we've got to agree on what existence is. Okay. But by virtue of us feeling alive and everything, we know that we are conscious, and we know that consciousness is feedback loops, which means we're able to respond to our surroundings. But now the question is, we are responding to surroundings which have existed before human beings. If you follow the fact that we are biological beings, and biology is the application of chemistry. So there was chemistry before there was biology. Before there was there was DNA and cells and all that, single-celled organisms. Okay, there was just chemistry, and before the chemistry there was just the physics. Okay, and before that, so us observing the universe is it's like the universe has come up with a way to be conscious of itself through the human brain. Okay, I mean, we can talk more about the human brain, because I think that um, question 6. It would really help us to understand question 6. So number 7, where do all these planets hang from? Who set the parameters? Well, if you say who set, then you're supposing that there is some being who is responsible for setting parameters. If by parameters you mean, I don't know what you really mean by parameters from this question, but I suppose you're talking about who decides how they are hanging as they are. Well, first of all, are planets hanging? And my answer to that is planets are the way they are because there are forces of gravitational attraction between every body in the universe. Okay, so the planets are in orbit around the sun because of the gravitational pull of the sun, which is a much bigger body or entity in the solar system, for example, where we've got 9 planets, or is it 8 now? Because Pluto has been downgraded from a planet to a dwarf planet. But I think there are plans to make it a planet again. And next week, NASA is going to make an announcement as to some discovery they have made just outside our solar system. Okay, so in terms of physics, the planets are the way they are because of the gravitational forces of attraction between the sun and the planets themselves. And some of them have natural satellites like the moon, and some of them have more than one moon. The Earth has one moon, and the moon is in orbit around the Earth, but the Earth is in orbit around the sun. Okay, and the sun belongs to the Milky Way galaxy. So who introduced time? When you start with who, then you're supposing that there is someone who is doing these things. Who changes seasons and tell the sun to come out? Well, first of all, we cannot separate time from space. Okay, so we talk about the space-time continuum. So space and time, okay, are a fabric of each other. Who changes seasons? Okay, we know how the seasons change. They change because of the position of the sun relative to the earth, so that's how we get the seasons. And also we get tides and all that because of the rotation of the moon around the earth. Okay, and tell the sun to come out. Well, we don't know if the sun is being told to come out, but we know that the sun is when we say the sun is coming out, actually it's a consequence of the earth going around the sun. So as the earth, in fact, the earth rotating on its axis, sorry. So as the earth is rotating on its axis, okay, we believe it's the sun, or simple observation makes it look like the sun is moving, okay, across the sky. But what's really happening is that the earth is rotating on its axis, and as it rotates, okay, we experience day and night. How did we get different languages? Well, language is a long story, okay, and how we got different languages, it's migration. We'll have to look at how language developed in the first place. But one thing for sure is that the languages we're speaking today are very different from what was spoken maybe 500 years ago. If we take someone from 500 years ago, we would not be able to understand them. So languages evolved, and most of the languages we speak, or the languages in Eastern Europe, are from the Latin. And if you go to Africa and you go to Zimbabwe, for example, if you go to the border towns, you'll find that the language is being spoken by people in Zimbabwe, in maybe Mutare area, and those just across the border in Mozambique. They are speaking the same language. The reason being that most of them are the same people. They were just divided by colonialism when the countries were subdivided into distinct borders. Some of the borders actually cut across villages, so these people speaking the same language were separated, and now they are in different countries. But if you were to move from, say, from the Cape in South Africa to Cairo, there's a gradual change in language. So you could actually see that the language is gradually changing. And if you were to spend, say, a year in each place, then you'll probably be able to learn all the languages from the Cape to Cairo. So who created everything? Okay, I would recommend that you read a book called A Universe from Nothing. And if you say who again, you're supposing that someone created everything. And what is the Big Bang? Well, the Big Bang theory is a theory which basically looks at our current state of the universe. And when you look at the current state of the universe, you find that the universe is expanding. Okay, so if it is expanding, and it's expanding everywhere, it's not just expanding in one place. So each point in the universe is expanding. Okay, and the universe is expanding into itself. So if it is expanding, and we know where it is today, it means that it must have expanded from somewhere. Okay, and so if we trace it back, it's like if you're playing a movie and you play it backwards. Okay, it's gonna start somewhere. So where it starts is the Big Bang, and where we are now is some time after the Big Bang, and we are continuing to expand. So those are my answers to some of the questions which I've been asked. And I think that you, the viewer, might have better answers to some of these, but be prepared to be questioned if you make assumptions in your answers, like who did that, who put that there, what determines this. If you ask those sort of questions, please be prepared to be asked more questions in order for you to explain exactly. And also, if you make assumptions about concepts such as the soul and the spirit, and you expect someone else to answer them, then I think you need to clarify exactly what you mean by the soul and what you mean by the spirit. Okay, I'm going to end it here now, and I am looking forward to some answers from you guys and maybe more questions from you guys. Thank you for watching.